So look at this nonsense. Yeah, Benny Johnson. He's such a. I won't say anything. But yeah, so these freedom, this is all, Charlie Kirk's birthday's coming up, because he's going to, this is the idol now, the false idol, the false prophet idol. So young men for Trump and Charlie Kirk. So they're only attaching Trump's name to it temporarily, just like Kirk attached himself to Trump, because this is a different movement. This isn't MAGA. I mean, I guess you could say it is now because Trump's gone in that direction, but he did not run on Christian nationalism. Charlie Kirk pushed that. Everything Charlie Kirk was doing on the campuses was to radicalize the kids, no different than the left was doing with the Students for Democratic Society back in the 60s and 70s. They just were doing it on the radical right. And us people in the middle who have the common sense, God's just separating us from all of it. He is. That's what he's doing. He's separating. He doesn't support this because it's the radical right, and he doesn't support the radical left. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen because of this constant rhetoric of that it's the left, it's the left. God is going to give the biggest smackdown. You mark my words. He is going to give the biggest smackdown to the Republicans for that crap. Because radical is radical, okay? In the 60s and 70s, you had the Weather Underground group that was running around extremists, blowing places up. And then you had the Lebanese army. They were another one. And you had the Students for Democratic Society or Socialist Society going on, okay? That was in the 60s and 70s. The left was very radical, and granted, in the past several years, there's been several school shootings, and it was transgenders. However, in the 80s and 90s, that pendulum swinged away from the radical left and went to the right. You got Timothy McVeigh. He was right wing. You got the group called the Order. It was some silent brotherhood, okay? They were doing the same stuff. And I would be the first to say, no, that was the left moving to the right to just make the left look better. However, it's still radicalization. Violence is violence. And because a ton of Republicans keep saying it's the left, there's the most violent. No, they're not the most in history. You both have plenty of people on both sides, okay? And this will be the biggest smackdown because God does not support Christian nationalism. That is the reason the Republicans will get the biggest smackdown, because they're constantly acting like they're under threat by the left. This Mormon church thing that happened, this killing that happened yesterday, at least on the surface, it looks like the guy was an ex-Marine. He was a hunter. He had the American flag in the back of his pickup, and nobody's saying what political affiliation, but now that said, okay, there could be a ton of reasons because the Mormon church is, it's a cult. It doesn't excuse it. It does not excuse it whatsoever. But this is the smackdown the radical right is going to get by God. By God. Because he's sick of hearing that, it's the radical left. Yes, in many cases it is. And then that pendulum swings all the way to Christian nationalism, which God doesn't support either. So God will make sure you get smacked down as well. They can keep attaching Trump's name to it. What Trump now, I guess, has embraced it. Whatever he's doing. I cannot make sense. I've said before, I try to make sense. It's almost like at times I pray a lot trying to understand, and God blocks me from it. I don't know, that probably doesn't make sense, but just not blocks me, but it's like sometimes God will put on my heart what it's about, and it's meant to trigger it so that people will speak up, but then I get really angry about it. to trust politicians is, never really a good idea, regardless of what side. So, I'm always on the fence there. But he didn't run on Christian nationalism. Charlie Kirk was pushing that. We want a national abortion ban. That's women need to know their place. Okay, it is totally to the far right. So the Benny Johnsons, the Steve Bannons, the people, in my opinion, that I've been saying for years don't really support Trump because they support the radical right. At least the MAGA that Trump was prior to getting in office, that Trump, to me, he was not this. Okay, now he's become this, which is why I've lost respect. But they are just using Trump. They could care less. This is a different movement that Charlie was creating. And all they do is they attach Trump's name to it. Speaking of the radical left or whatever, but the radical left in the 60s, the Weather Underground group, somebody told me recently, although I haven't seen this reported because I looked for it, that they're looking, they possibly might be going after Bernadine Dorn again, because that when they did their bombings, the only people that were killed were people in their own group. When one of their bombs went off, I think it was in the Greenwich Village in New York, right? But there was other bombings they did, and this person had said to me that there was somebody murdered, and there's no statute of limitations on murders, so they might be going after her again. I don't, but I have not seen anybody report that, so I'm just, sharing that little tidbit. But that's what's happened. So people can say, oh, it's all left wing, and yes, the radical left is lunatics. So is the radical right. And I guarantee, mark my words, God is going to give a major smackdown to the right-wing Christian nationalists. It's coming. It's coming to where it's like, you want to keep blaming one side when you're just as radical on your side? Well, now you're going to see the truth. Everybody and God's separating us people in the middle from both of you. From the left and the right. God's just putting us here in the middle, saying neither side cares about the moderate, but God's saying, I got them covered.